Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Monday Night Travel with Rick Steves Europe. My name is Julianne Worden, and I'll be your moderator this evening as we travel along with Rick. Tonight is a special episode as Valentine's Day is just around the corner, so we are going to the most romantic places in Europe tonight. And now, without further ado, we will all go somewhere a bit more romantic than our living rooms with our tour guide and Valentine tonight, Rick Steves. Hi, Rick.
Julianne, thank you so much for the introduction, and thank everybody for joining us today as a special edition of Monday Night Travel. Next Sunday is Valentine's Day, and we're going to get in the mood by going to some of the most romantic places in Europe. You know, it is just so great every Monday night to get together. I don't know about you, but it helps me get through this whole lockdown and this pandemic when we can't travel, to get together and just celebrate travel. And, I spend 100 days a year, 100 years a day in Europe. This is my second show, so I'm well into my bottle of wine that I'm going to explain to you in just a minute here. But I spend 100 days a year in Europe. And then when I'm home, I spend a good part of that time going around the country giving talks. And I can't do that this year. So for me, this is just a delight. Every Monday night, I get to put together a talk. I get to put together some great food and drink and answer your questions. And we're connecting. We're getting through this pandemic together. So I scramble around. Nobody comes into my house during this pandemic really, but tonight I've got 3,000 people joining me. So welcome in and make yourself at home. You know, you can just toss your coats over there. The toilet's just down the hall. If you want to smoke, there's a deck out there. On our tours, we say no smoking unless you're on fire. We've got a lot of travels coming your way. And I just get this chance to enthuse about my favorite romantic spots in Europe. I do want to mention a little bit of Monday Night Travel news. We've had, like right now, I think we're maxed out. This is 2 sold out shows tonight. We've decided to up our license with Zoom for our webinars. Right now, we max out at 3,000, and we're going to bump it up to 5,000 so we can accommodate more travelers starting next week. So we got plenty of seats, and we hope you can continue to join us and tell your friends. Also, on the East Coast, this show's a little late for their bedtime. What is it, 7:30 in Seattle? So it'll be 10:30 in New York. So we're going to move things up 1/2 hour starting on March 1st. So it'll be 5:30 and 7 in Seattle instead of 6 and 7:30. And then our friends on the East Coast can join us early or late and have a good time traveling with us. Hey, every week we have something to drink and something to eat. I want to go through with you my dinner for tonight. And as you know, this is our second show. So I just realized it's when we film our TV show, we always like to eat in the restaurant first, and then we go back the next night and film it because we know the rhythm of the place. We know how things look, how we like it, and so on. And same thing with this. I just enjoyed my dinner an hour and a half ago, and I'm going to do it again right now. And we started with the kir. A kir is one of the most popular aperitifs, cocktails in France. And the basic thing is the black currant liqueur, the crème de cassis. And you pour that into your wine glass, and this is an aperitif. You have it before dinner, and you go about maybe 6-to-1 is the ratio. I did a little heavy there. And then we put in a dry white wine. And there you go. I'm smiling because I just drank this and it's really nice. Oh yeah. And that takes me right back to southern France, really, the kir, K-I-R, white wine. If you wanted to make it a kir royale, you might have a Prosecco or a Champagne, and then that would be the kir royale. But I like wine, basically. So this is La Peridou and Viognier. It is the Viognier, and I can drink French wine better than I can say it. But in France, you got not the kind of grape, but the place. This is a place called La Peridou, and this is the kind of grape. And this is a dry white wine from the south of France, from the Rhone Valley. So I'm going to be sipping this in the beginning, but this is an aperitif. And on the last program, or the last show, I realized this is a great aperitif, but once I got into my cheese and pâté, I wanted just the dry white wine. So I'm going to go to just the wine alone because this is too sweet for that. Oh yeah. And we've got our beautiful French baguette chopped up and toasted in my dugout canoe, my favorite bread basket. I love this. And we've got our cheese and pâté. And, you can never get tired of French cheese. And I like to add the pâté and the mousse. Pâté and mousse are both kind of mix of wine and herbs and spices and duck and goose and chicken liver and all the gross meats that we might not want to eat, all mixed together. The mousse is more like a milkshake. It's more mixed up, and it's really good with mustard. And the pâté, this is pâté de campagne, and that is delightful also. The pâté de campagne is a mix, it's a paste of pork, duck, and chicken with wine and spices. And the mousse is, this particular mousse is duck liver marinated in port. I did notice that when you have the Dijon mustard, it's just great with that. And then we have our two cheeses. So you got 4 different spreads for your baguette. This is a mountain cheese from the Swiss, from the French Alps, and it is, I can't even remember the name of it. I've got it written down, but it occurred to me, what really matters is if you're here in the United States and you want a great stinky cheese, don't go to the grocery store. I love my grocery store, but I'm frustrated there when it comes to cheese. You go to your local cheesemonger. I go to my cheesemonger and he sets me up with great cheese. I don't even know the name, but they say it's good. I try it. I love it. And I've got my my three milk cheese, or my three cheeses cheese there, La Tour from Piedmont in North Italy. It's a mix of goat, sheep, and cow cheese all together. And it is really creamy, really fragrant, and really nice. Later on for dessert, we're going to have some baklava. And baklava has, oh baby, this is the phyllo, little layered phyllo with lots of nuts and pistachios and drizzled with honey. I cut it up in little pieces and eat it with a toothpick so I don't get all sticky. And then we've got some beautiful romantic dark chocolate from Switzerland, Lindt, L-I-N-D-T. It's a very good chocolate trio. So there's our menu. And what I want to do right now is create a half an hour of Romantic Europe programming. So I'm going to go and we're going to go into our program, which is called Classroom Europe. And Classroom Europe is something we've made in the last year for teachers, for homeschooling parents, and it breaks our TV series into 500 streamable clips. This is free, this is fun, there's no ads in it. It's designed for teachers, and I'm going to illustrate now how it works because you might find some use for this for the students in your home. This is Classroom Europe, it's easy to find, and we can go to all the videos. And here we have 500 searchable clips. And you could go by historic eras or themes or countries, but I like to just go to what's in the script. And I'm going to type in romantic, R-O-M-A-N-T-I-C. And I'm going to get all the scripts that are romantic. And I can look at, there's a lot of romantic scripts here. And what would be good for our program tonight? I think Lake Como, honeymoon country. Oh, baby. So we got that. And then the island of Santorini is probably the most romantic of the Greek islands. We'll do that. And then I'm just, you know, grazing through all the romantic clips that we have on Classroom Europe. The most romantic chateau, Chenonceau in the Loire Valley in France. That's nice. And I think we want Venice, Carnevale. Oh, baby. So that's nice. Now I can look up at the top and I can see we've got 4 videos in our playlist. That's 17 minutes. So I got 30 minutes with all of you of programming. Let's just type in kiss. I just think, where do we have kiss? Well, we got Rodin's Kiss. We got Klimt. Oh, I love Klimt. He's one of my favorite artists. So we'll add Gustav Klimt to our list. And now we want to go to the French Riviera for sure, because that is Romanticville, F-R-E-N-C-H, Riviera. And what do we have? Well, we got lots of French Riviera, but I'm going to go to Nice. So I add that to the playlist. And that's 6 videos. We've got time for 5 more minutes. Paris is the most romantic city in Europe. So I just typed in Paris. We've got Napoleon. There's nothing romantic about Napoleon, so he's not going to make the cut. But the Belle Époque, that is really romantic. Paris around the year 1900. And then the Cluny Museum, the unicorn is with the troubadours and courtly love. And when Europe came out of the Dark Ages and learned that, hey, romance is okay. Let's add that to our list. And then we got 8 videos, 30 minutes. So very nice. Now we go to our playlist. This is it. You can see it all over here on the right. We could arrange that any way we want. And if you're a teacher, you know, you give it a name and you can send it to your students and you can give it a description, but we're just going to call it Valentine Day, Monday Night Travel. So we will save that. And you could send it to the public playlist and share it with the world, but I just put it on my private playlists. And all of you can have a private playlist if you want. And there I have Valentine's Day Monday Night Travel. So we've got plenty of opportunity now to have 30 minutes of travels together with all the romantic spots in Europe. And we're going to start out in, I think, the most romantic corner of Italy. It's the Lombardy region up in the north, and it's all the lakes. It's all the lakes of Italy. I want to remind you, from a practical point of view, when you fly into Milano, like we do with our groups, 1 hour north is a little traffic-free town on Lake Como called Varenna, and it's a perfect place for you to start your romantic Italian travels. So let's go right now to Lake Como together, and we'll kick off our warm-up for Valentine's Day Monday Night Travel. Thank you so much for being with us. Let's go to Lake Como.
Lombardy's seductively beautiful lakes district, where Italy meets the Alps, seems heaven-sent for communing with nature. In this land of so many popular lakes, the million-euro question is, which one? Well, all the lakes have their charms. Lake Como is my favorite. It offers the best mix of accessibility, scenery, and offbeatness, with a heady whiff of aristocratic old days romance. Lake Como is lined with elegant 19th century villas, crowned by snow-capped mountains and busy with fleets of little ferries. It's a good place to take a break from the intensity of urban turnstile sightseeing. It seems half the travelers you'll meet have tossed their itineraries into the lake and are actually relaxing. Today, the hazy, lazy lake's only serious industry is tourism. Lake Como's isolation and flat economy have left it pretty much the way 19th century romantic poets first described it.
Look at that. And yet, when you get there, you settle down in a town like Varenna, and you get a one-day pass for the lakes. And then you can ride these old romantic turn-of-the-century steamers all around the lake, hopping from town to town. It's delightful. It's so delightful, George Clooney himself fell in love with the lake and purchased a villa. He actually filmed parts of Ocean's 11 right there. As I mentioned, this is Luna de Mille, honeymoon country. And, it's Italy without the chaos. That's, if you want to take it easy, it's a great way to get your grounding, your bearings when you fly into Italy. Fly into Milan, take that train 1 hour north, and you're into a wonderland of lakes with poodles and romantic steamers, and your romantic dreams come true.
Bellagio, the self-proclaimed pearl of the lake, is a classy combination of old-world elegance and new-world luxury. Spendy five-star hotels give the well-heeled traveler all the comforts they're accustomed to. Harborfront shops entice posh travelers with jewelry and accessories. The heavy curtains between the arcades keep the visitors and their poodles from sweating. The steep lanes rising from the harborfront lead to a tangle of sun-splashed squares. Part of the fun of your lake visit is town hopping on the ferries. For me, the ideal home base for Lago di Como is 15 minutes from Bellagio, Varenna. This town of 800 people offers the best of all lake worlds. Easily accessible by train from Milan, yet on the less developed side of the lake, Varenna has a romantic promenade, a tiny harbor, and narrow lanes. These buildings are stringently protected. You can't even change the color of your home without asking permission. There are no streets in the old town, just characteristic stepped lanes. It's an ideal place to savor a lakeside cappuccino or aperitivo. Imagine this sleepy harbor 200 years ago. It was busy. There were coopers crafting oak and chestnut into barrels, stoneworkers carving and shipping Varenna's prized black marble, and fishing boats dragged up onto this cobbled beach. Many Lake Como towns have a villa or two with their dilapidated 19th century elegance and wistful gardens open to the public and even transformed into inviting hotels. In Varenna, the sprawling lakeside Villa Cipresi rents rooms and welcomes visitors for a small fee to explore its peaceful terraced garden. Albergo Milano, located right in the old town, is the kind of place I like to recommend in my guidebooks. It's graciously run by Egidio and his Swiss wife, Bettina. Fusing the best of Italy with the best of Switzerland, the place manages to be both romantic and very well run. Most of its comfy rooms offer dreamy lake views. And Egidio is a fine chef. The limited menu changes daily according to the season and the chef's whim. Verena whispers Luna di Mille, honeymoon, and a good place to enjoy that romance is strolling along its passerella. You'll pass wisteria-drenched villas, evocative vistas, and lakeside lovers embracing the moment.
That's romantic. That's Verena. It's a delightful stop. If I ever need to just convalesce, a lot of times in Europe, I'm working too hard. I need a place to just let my brain become unfried. Verena is one of the places I go. I was just there in 2019. It's amazing. I stayed at Albergo Milano. It's my favorite place. It's just so welcoming. Okay, we're going to come up to the on-camera close of this bit, and it's referring to Milan because this was taken out of the Milan show. I want to remind you that you can watch every one of these clips in the context of their entire show very easily without any pausing from me by going to ricksteves.com and looking in the TV section, and then you can watch the whole show. They're all available. It's free. It's just a click away. This next on camera, by the way, is a rare time when something was wrong with our audio and we had to do the audio when we got home in the studio. So you can tell my voice quality is a little better than in the field because it's in the studio and we're looping it. It's called looping it. And you try to match your lips with your words. And we did a pretty good job here. It's hard to tell if we're actually looping, but that's kind of part of the TV work. Check this out. And then we're going to head off to Greece.
It's places like this where I really feel the romance of Europe. I hope you've enjoyed our look at Milano and Lago di Como. I'm Rick Steves. Until next time, keep on traveling. Ciao.
Okay, so now I'm on a cruise ship and we're coming into Santorini. And when we filmed this show, it was we were doing our cruise special. It's a 1-hour cruise special. You can watch it if you haven't seen it yet. And it was a great show to do, dropping by all the islands that are the greatest cruise stops and giving people practical tips about cruising. And we're coming into Santorini here. And when we're doing TV from a cruise ship, it is really a fun challenge because you got no flexibility. As soon as that gangplank hits, you're out of there doing your filming and you got to be on that ship before it's take off or it's bad news. So we have exactly 10 hours or whatever the time is the ship's in port to get our show done. It is a scramble. And we get back onto the ship and it's a high five and a beer and we got it done. I love to come back onto the ship and be about the last person back on. You know, you've got your little security key that is your identity and your credit card and everything for the ship. And when you come back on, they swipe it and they know at that time of the 3,000 tourists on that ship, how many are on board and how many are still on land. Routinely, I always ask, and routinely when I come back on, they'll say there are 8 people left or something like that. I think it's very important to be the last people back onto the ship because that last hour is when all the tourists, all the annoying tourists are back on the ship and the people are relaxed on the island. And it's just a beautiful time to savor that last little bit of island wonder. So we're going to go to Santorini now. And the lesson here is when the captain says, get up early to enjoy the sunrise as you come into port. It's good advice.
Aegean Sea offers the quintessence of Mediterranean island charm. Punctuated by romantic nights at sea, our itinerary promises plenty of unforgettable sightseeing. In the morning, we'll be in Santorini. I enjoy the scenic arrivals and departures by cruise ship. Being on the top deck as you approach the day's destination gives you a quiet, bird's-eye view. Approaching an exotic and fabled island like Santorini as the moon sets and the sun rises, just kissing the lip of the breathtaking cliffs is worth getting up for. Santorini is a dramatic island, the rim of a volcanic crater with spectacular vistas. Once a complete island like its neighbors, it was a volcano that, about 3,500 years ago, blew its top, creating a caldera, this flooded crater. Today, inviting whitewashed villages seem to crowd its dramatic ridges, as if jostling to enjoy the views. Because Santorini's pier is small, giant cruise ships drop anchor and tender their passengers in on small shuttle boats. Individuals go to the tiny Old Harbor, where they can ride a donkey up the zigzag trail, or hop a cable car to the scenic lip of the island crater. Those paying for the cruise line's excursion get off the ship first and head for an alternative port, where buses and guides await. With the crush of the crowds, the limited time, and the scattered array of interesting sights, investing in a bus tour like this to see Santorini can make sense. Within minutes, you'll be powering up the switchbacks into the island as your guide narrates the drive.
Those two are the Kameni Islands. The Kameni Islands are actually made of lava rock.
Excursions also include scenic views from the bus and the stress-free efficiency of getting smoothly from point to point. And tour groups are sure to have free time at the best photo ops. Ia is the postcard image of the Greek Isles. This idyllic ensemble of whitewashed houses and characteristic domes is delicately draped over a steep slope at the top of a cliff. Viewpoints here are some of the most striking in the Greek seas as tourists clamor for just the right angle. Artists fall in love with Ia and move in. Honeymooners find the B&B of their dreams and savor breakfast in unforgettable settings.
Look at that setting. That's a B&B, Airbnb, book it, you're there. Okay, there's a lot of cruise travelers around during the day, but in the morning and at night, it's all yours. That's something that really struck me. When I was visiting with the cruise ship, I'm there with 3,000 people. We all come on, we all fill up the island with tourism, and then we go and they're right there enjoying the romance of that island. If you're looking for real romance, I want to remind you, something built in about cruise ships is you're never in these romantic places in the evening, because you're back on the ship going to the next stop. It's super efficient, but you always miss the sunsets. I'll never forget my first time in Santorini. I was there in a little B&B just like this and just blown away by those sunsets. I want to remind you, we got a chance to answer your questions coming up. So you see the widget there Julianne mentioned earlier. Write a question, and then Julianne will field those questions and she'll dish them up to me after we're done looking at the TV shows, and I'd love to answer your questions. I also want to remind you this Kir is really good, K-I-R, Kir. And it's probably one of the most popular cocktails you'll find in France. So, check it out. But I do want to also remind you that I'm enjoying the cheese, the pâté, and the mousse so much that I'm going to say this is my last cure, and I'm going to go just for the dry white wine, because then I'll fully enjoy my beautiful French cheeses, pâtés, and mousses. And you don't need to be a sophisticate to enjoy this kind of beautiful food. You just need to go somewhere beyond the big grocery store to find a place that has the passion for and the selection of these great little spreads. Go to your cheesemonger and talk to them, get to know them. It's a blessing in our town that we have a cheesemonger where we have access to beautiful pâtés and beautiful cheeses. Okay, we're going to go now to Santorini during the middle of the day with all the tourists. When you go to Santorini, you're going to find there's a major industry of Asian brides flying all the way there to get their what they call pre-wedding portraits. There are Asian photographers who are really good, and they camp out right there. And then you'll see these beautiful brides with their beautiful blue gowns and their tiaras posted just on the most scenic corners all across the island. And that is a huge deal, the romance of a place like Santorini for Asian brides to get those wonderful photographs. If you're during the middle of the day, you got the crowds and you got all the brides getting their photographs.
And at the quiet end of town, the old windmill reminds all of a more rustic age gone by. The whitewash, while scenic today, was originally practical. White reflects the powerful heat of the sun. The lime that makes the whitewash is a good antiseptic. Villagers knew it would naturally disinfect the rainwater that was collected on rooftops. And I love the way the blue and white of the townscape seems inspired by the colors of the Greek flag. Many of these dwellings originated as humble caves. With little building material on the island, it just made sense to dig into the cliffs. These cave houses, surrounded by air-filled pumice, are naturally insulated, staying cool in summer and warm in winter. Gradually, these cheapest bits of real estate were developed, and with tourism, they became today's expensive villas, hotels, and restaurants. With each port, you've got sightseeing options. You can take the organized bus tour and be on their timetable, or you can hire a private guide. You can use a guidebook and be your own guide, or you can just hang out and be thoroughly on vacation. There's no right or wrong. It depends on your mood and your style. I've left our bus tour early for a rendezvous with a private local guide.
We had a big earthquake back in 1956, 7.8 Richter scale, destroyed very many houses, like this captain's house over here. And on the other side, you can see that Venetian fortress, it's destroyed. It's been there since the 14th century.
To get the absolute most out of our Santorini day, I've booked half a day with Dimitris. While pricey, if two couples split the cost, enjoying the services of a private guide can cost about the same as the cruise line's bus tour.
So this is an important point, really. If you happen to be traveling with another couple on a cruise ship, you have a lot of buying power. And so many couples just routinely book the excursions. Well, they're fine. But for the price of 4 excursion tickets on a cruise ship, you can have your own private guide waiting for you at the harbor with his car. I'm shooting through the window of the car of the guide I hired, just like you can. And that's a very good budget option. There's a huge industry of people that just kind of take advantage of the cruise industry by being private guides to give travelers an alternative to the cookie cutter excursions that the cruise line sells. The cruise line will not encourage this because a very important part of their equation is to make money by selling you the excursions, but you do have that option. In a moment, we're going to hit a town, and I remember it was really fun for me because I knew that if you go to a town like this with a TV crew and you're going to shoot lunch, they're going to take an hour to get it put together. They're going to bring you like a swordfish and a whole giant tower of fruits, and it's just going to be over the top ridiculous. So I had to run along the port and find a place that looked good, that had enough business, but not too much, and that had a staff that could work with me. And I said, I just want 2 salads and some squid so I can illustrate the basic salt of the earth cuisine of this island. And I was able to get it, but we only had an hour for the crew to have lunch and to shoot this. That was the problem, because this is that one cruise ship day to shoot the whole Santorini for the TV show. And we managed it. It was really fun.
Of Santorini's many beaches, Kamari is one of the best. The black sand is a reminder of the island's volcanic origin. Typical of Greek island resort beaches, it's lined with rentable lounge chairs and a strip of seafood restaurants. And with Dimitris, I know exactly what I'm eating. These salads look delicious. Can you tell me about them?
Well, we have here a Greek salad and a Santorini salad. The difference with the local salad is that we use the local tomatoes, the cherry tomatoes, the local cucumbers, and instead of the feta cheese, we use the goat cheese, and we add the capers and the caper leaves. See, you can eat them. They taste good. We've got some sardines here, grilled, and on the other side, we've got a very nice grilled calamari, also served with salad, the lemon, and the olive oil.
Yes. This is a healthy diet.
This is the Mediterranean diet.
Wow. That sums it up right there. Island life. It's great, whether you're on a cruise ship just for the day. And I want to remind you, I'm on a cruise ship here, but there's no hint of a cruise ship crowd because I took the initiative and got my local guide to get me away from all that cruise ship crowd, where you have 200 people at a photo op for 15 minutes. Everybody's got their cameras up, and it's just, you're embarrassed to be in that crowd if you're a real traveler. You want to get out, and you can do that with your private guide. Okay, abrupt connection. Now we're going to go to Vienna for some romantic art in the Belvedere Palace. And it's just the most beautiful art. Vienna is the city of Art Nouveau. It's called Jugendstil auf Deutsch in German. And we're going to go to the Belvedere Palace and we're going to see the art of Gustav Klimt. Hold on to your castanets.
Vienna has fine art and architecture from just about every age, and particularly interesting is the art from the last decades of Habsburg rule. Art Nouveau. Vienna gave birth to its own curvaceous brand of Art Nouveau in the early 1900s, Jugendstil. Playful examples are all over town. Whether architecture, coffee, cakes, or music, it's all part of the good life, Vienna style. The Belvedere Palace, with its elegant Baroque gardens, was the lavish home of Prince Eugene of Savoy, the still much appreciated conqueror of the Turks. Eugene was the greatest military genius of his age and highly valued by his emperor.
When you conquer great enemies, as Eugene did, you get really rich. Since he had no heirs, the state inherited his palace. In the 19th century, Emperor Joseph II converted the palace into Austria's first great public art gallery.
It houses the Austrian Gallery of 19th and 20th century art. As Austria became a leader in European art around 1900, that age is the collection's forte, with fine works by a school of respected romantics, Egon Schiele and Gustav Klimt. In the room full of sumptuous paintings by Klimt, you can get caught up in his creed that all art is erotic. He was fascinated with both the beauty and the danger of women. He painted during the turn of the century, when Vienna was a splendid laboratory of hedonism, the love of pleasure. For Klimt, Eve was the prototypical woman. Her body, not the apple, provided the seduction. Frustrated by censorship, Klimt refused every form of state support. While he didn't paint women entirely nude, he managed to capture a bewitching eroticism. Here, Judith is no biblical heroine, but a high society Viennese woman with an ostentatious necklace. With half-closed eyes and lightly parted lips, she's dismissive, yet mysterious and seductive. Holding the head of her biblical victim, she's the modern femme fatale. In perhaps his most famous painting, The Kiss, the woman is no longer dominating, but submissive, abandoning herself to her man in a fertile field and a vast universe. In a glow emanating from a radiance of desire, the body she presses against is a self-portrait of the artist himself, Gustav Klimt.
To stand in front of that piece of art, I mean, I don't want to get melodramatic, but it really impacts you. It's just, you almost, you know how they joke about people faint or something like that. There's nothing like it. It's so sumptuous. It's so exquisite. These are words I try not to overuse. I had the joy last year of writing a book called Europe's Top 100 Masterpieces. And I co-authored this with my good buddy, Gene Openshaw, and we chose the 100 best pieces of art in Europe. And Gustav Klimt, of course, made the cut. If you're looking for a nice gift for your Valentine, hey, 100 masterpieces, it's good reading. It's good reading as you dream about your next trip to Europe. Okay, now we're going to go to France in the French Riviera, and the best home base for the French Riviera is the town of Nice. So we use Nice as a springboard for exploring the wonders of that romantic corner of Europe.
In the 19th century, aristocrats from London to Moscow flocked to France's sunny Côte d'Azur, or Blue Coast. Much loved for its blue seas and blue skies, this was the place for Northern Europeans to socialize, gamble, and escape their dreary weather.
Whether you're rich or not, Nice, with its eternally entertaining seafront promenade and fine museums, is the enjoyable big city highlight of the Riviera. In its traffic-free old city, Italian and French flavors mix to create a spicy Mediterranean dressing. Nice may be nice, but it's hot and jammed in July and August. We're here in early June, beating the serious heat and crowds. The broad Promenade des Anglais, literally the walkway of the English, was paved in marble for blue-blooded 19th century English tourists who wanted a safe place to stroll and admire the view without getting their shoes dirty or smelling that fishy gravel. Today, it's a fun people scene with a bike and rollerblade path that leads all the way to the airport. The beach, while pebbly, is popular. Whether you're looking for an adrenaline rush or just working on your suntan, this beach has it all. Tan lines can...
I gotta say, if you're ever in the French Riviera shooting a TV show for public television, it's really tough because everywhere you look, there's topless sunbathers. and you can't show that on your TV show. So it's like, oh man, everywhere you look, you cannot shoot. It's got real trick. Even to show paintings. I mean, in that last little bit, we saw Gustav Klimt, and there's a little bit of nudity there on the canvas painted 150 years ago. It can be problematic. There are actually markets today in the United States of America that will not air my TV show until after bedtime. It's like too risque. These shows are flagged. Lawyers look over them because in our country, it's dirty. And in their country, it's life. I don't know. Forgive me for getting a little bit worked up about this, but I love Europe. I just love Europe, and I love the French Riviera.
Hard to find, as Europeans are relaxed about topless sunbathing. While major stretches of the beach are public, much of it is private, where you pay to rent a spot, complete with mattress, lounge chair, and umbrella. For a particularly scenic lunch, you can eat on the beach. I'm having a salad niçoise.
Last week, I was eating with you a salad niçoise, and this is the town of Nice. Salad niçoise, the Nice salad. You just gotta have it when you're in Nice. When I'm with the TV crew, it's our go-to salad when we're working. We wanna have a quick stop. We don't wanna go to fast food and have a sandwich or a burger. We want a salad niçoise with a nice basket of French bread, and a glass of rosé. Don't underestimate rosé. You see the rosé there? Rosé doesn't have a very good reputation here in the United States, but in France, on a hot day at lunchtime, a glass of rosé is a nice thing.
Pretty local standard with anchovies, tuna, hard-boiled eggs, and tasty little niçoise olives. Graceful buildings from the turn of the last century lead in from the beach, reminders of the Belle Époque. Literally the beautiful age when the world seemed to revolve around the upper class, and indulgence with abandon was a lifestyle. Nice's Grand Opera House illustrates the beautiful extravagance of this era. Imagine this opulent jewel buried deep in the old town of Nice way back then. With Europe's elite wintering here, the rough-edged town needed some high-class entertainment. A prime example of Belle Époque luxury is the majestic Hotel Negresco. It offers some of the city's most expensive beds and a chance to step back into that age of extreme refinement. The exquisite royal salon combines Belle Époque grace with engineering by the great French architect Gustav Eiffel. The chandelier is made of 16,000 pieces of crystal. It was built in France for the Russian Tsar's Moscow palace, but because of the Bolshevik Revolution, he couldn't take delivery. Many of Nice's early visitors were Russians, and the city's Russian Orthodox Church claims to be the finest this side of the Volga. 500 rich Russian families wintered in Nice and needed a worthy Orthodox house of worship. Tsar Nicholas II gave this church to the Russian community here in 1912. A few years later, Russian comrades who didn't winter on the Riviera shot him. Here in the land of olives and anchovies, the church's proud onion domes seem out of place. But I imagine so did those Russians. The interior is filled with icons and candles. The icon wall divides the temporal world of the worshippers from the spiritual world behind it. The angel with red boots and wings is the protector of Russia's ruling Romanov family. The hammered copper cross commemorates the massacre of the Tsar and his family in 1918. The icon of the Virgin and Child is decorated with silver and semi-precious stones. A priest here told me that as the worshiper meditates, staring deep into the eyes of an icon, he enters a lake where he finds his soul.
It's so beautiful. You know, I feel like I'm dominating the conversation. I'm sorry. I don't know why you're so quiet, but I hope you're enjoying it. It's just so much fun to share this with you. And right now we're going to go to Paris now for the Cluny Museum. I do want to remind you, the French Riviera, where we just were, there we go. That's something nicer to look at. We're just in the French Riviera. We were home basing in Nice. And Nice is the big city. It's the one city with a culture. I mean, like a historic capital. But 20 minutes away from Nice on either side are towns called Villefranche and Antibes. And both of those towns are small and welcoming, great accommodations, great restaurants, and easy accessibility by the train. Those are the three best home bases for the French Riviera: Nice, Antibes, and Villefranche. I want to remind you, traveling along the French Riviera, you do not want a car. A car is bad news. Use the train. The train comes twice an hour and everything's 10 minutes apart, all the way along the Cannes, Antibes, Nice, Villefranche, Monte Carlo, Menton. And you've got a bus number 100 that takes you along the whole route, also on the Corniche along the coastline. For one ticket, you can go all the way from one end to the other end of the French Riviera. And it's just like bracelets. I mean, like little, what do you call it? Fancy little trinkets hanging from a bracelet. It's just a wonderful opportunity to enjoy the French Riviera. Now we're going to go to Paris. And when we go to Paris, this is the romantic city of Europe. We're going to remember that 600 years ago, France led Europe into this notion that there could be romantic love. France is the culture, I think, of courtly love, of troubadours, of chivalry, and I was going to say a painting, but it's actually a tapestry that illustrates that. It's called The Lady and the Unicorn. It's in the Cluny Museum, and that alone is worth going to Paris if you properly appreciate this beautiful Cluny Museum and The Lady and the Unicorn. Here we go.
All this fun, it's easy to forget that 6 centuries ago, Paris was a cultural leader as Europe was awakening from a long medieval slumber. Just a couple blocks off the river, the Cluny Museum, filling a medieval mansion, takes us back to Paris in the late Middle Ages. In the 1400s, trade was beginning to boom, and the Renaissance was moving in like a warm front from Italy. The Cluny Museum is an underappreciated treasure. Its rich collection of medieval art offers a rare peek into that mysterious age. The sumptuous ivory pieces, vibrant enamel work, and gorgeous sculptures reflect a surprisingly refined and far from dark society. Its centerpiece is a 15th century series of tapestries called The Lady and the Unicorn.
This is groundbreaking. This is exquisite. It's an opportunity to take yourself back 600 years to the humanity of France 600 years ago. It's hard to do it in the video, but you can try. But if you're there, you want to gaze at this beautiful tapestry and imagine what people thought when they saw this thing. This is coming out of the Dark Ages, coming out of the Middle Ages, coming into the Renaissance, coming into the age of romantic love.
In medieval lore, unicorns were solitary creatures that could only be tamed by a virgin. In secular society, they symbolized how a man was drawn to his lady love. In religion, the unicorn was a symbol of Christ. These exquisite tapestries were inspired by both secular and religious traditions. They give us a peek at life, sensual life, from a time when the people of Paris were just stepping out of medieval darkness. It's a celebration of all the senses. Taste. A woman takes candy from a servant's dish to feed it to her parakeet, while a little dog licks his lovingly woven chops. Hearing. An elegant woman plays sweetly on an organ, calming an audience of wild beasts. In this fanciful world, humans and their fellow creatures live in harmony in an enchanted garden. Sight. The unicorn cuddles up and looks at himself in the lady's mirror, pleased with what he sees. The lion turns away and snickers. As the Renaissance dawns, vanity is a less than deadly sin. Touch. That's the most basic and dangerous of the senses. Here, the lady strokes the unicorn's horn, and the lion looks out at us to be sure we get the double entendre. Medieval Europeans were celebrating the wonders of love and the pleasures of sex. The words on Our Lady's tent read, to my sole desire. What is her only desire? Is it jewelry? Or is she putting away the necklace and renouncing material things? Is it God? Love? The unicorn and lion open the tent. Is she stepping out or going in to meet the object of her desire? Human sensuality is awakening. The Dark Age is ending, and the Renaissance is emerging.
Think if you were an aristocrat 600 years ago and you had a big building and it was airy and cold, what would you do? You'd hang a tapestry on your walls and it would have like 8 panels and this would be it. Why not? Imagine the ability to do that and blow your friends away, frankly. I know you're all excited about my book, Europe's Top 100 Masterpieces, because I just showed you the Klimt, but I want to remind you, it's also got the unicorn. In fact, on the cover, you can see the unicorn and you can see the Klimt, the kiss. So those are clearly 2 of my favorites, but what a joy it was for me to be able to take my 100 favorite works of art and share them with you in this coffee table book. Valentine's Day is coming up. If you need a nice gift for your favorite travel partner, Europe's 100 Masterpieces might be it. Hey, now we're going to go from Paris 600 years ago to Paris 100 years ago. We're going to go to the Belle Époque. And I just saw the new movie with Tom Hanks, News of the World, and it showed Dallas in 1875. I couldn't believe how rough and tumble that place was. And now when you look at what's coming up next here, you'll see how advanced and how elegant and how sophisticated Europe was at the same time. Paris must have been amazing in the 19th century. Check this out. We're going to Paris in the Belle Époque.
A glimpse of the decadence of Paris's beautiful age, or Belle Époque, is enjoyed along the Champs-Élysées. Paris's old opera house, the grand palace of this gilded age, was finished in 1875. The real show was before and after, when the elite of Paris, out to see and be seen, strutted their elegant stuff in the extravagant lobbies. Think of the grand marble stairway as a theater itself, filled with Paris's beautiful people. The actual theater is a palace of plush and ornate seating. Above it all, a delightful ceiling, painted by Marc Chagall in the 1960s, frolics around an 8-ton chandelier.
All over Europe, you're going to see some Marc Chagall. And when you see Marc Chagall, you're going to see what a little theme he just loves, and it's a couple. It's love. It's a man and a woman holding each other. It's just so beautiful. And it's right there. It's right there in the Opera House in Paris. Now, we're going to go to my favorite romantic mansion in Paris. And when we go to this, it's called the Jacques-Marc André Museum. I want to remind you, there are art-filled mansions like this all over Europe. Every country's got them. You got these highly cultured aristocrats with way more money than what they know what to do with, and they put it into the art to decorate their homes, and then they dye it, and then it ends up in the control of the city, and it's open to tourists for tourism. It's especially interesting and worthwhile when you have a local guide. If ever there's a chance to tour these mansions with a local guide, like we're going to do right now with Kiera, it makes it doubly rewarding. Here we go, Jacques-Marc André. Don't forget this museum when you go to Paris.
Nearby, the Jacques-Marc André Museum fills a 19th century mansion offering the public a rare aristocratic open house. Edouard André and his wife, Nellie Jacques-Marc, spent their lives and fortune designing, building, and decorating this incredible mansion. I'm enjoying a tour by one of the museum's fine guides, Kiera.
Because, you know, they had no children, they had a lot of money, and they used to travel a lot, and then they bring many souvenirs.
So these were souvenirs from
exactly, for example.
What is this?
That's the music room.
You can almost imagine the clatter of jewelry mixing with the chamber music as Edouard and Nellie threw a party.
This is the Italian.
Exactly.
So For me, this is so much fun because these guides are just so smart. They're so charming. They're so happy to share their passion for this art. And now they have a chance to amplify it across the United States of America, thanks to public television. So we have Kara here, and you'll tell in this little walk by here, she's got the mic, not me. We just have one mic in this case. So my voice is a little soft. Her voice is right there. The mic is right there. And then I work with her to kind of enjoy the point I want to make and to hear her beautiful voice. I remember we worked on this. We did it three or four times. I love the way she said, Bellini, Botticelli, Mantegna, Carpaccio. And we wanted to get it in a rhythm, Bellini, Botticelli, Mantegna, Carpaccio. And we got it, and she just nailed it. And it's so fun to partner with these wonderful guides all around you.
Because they travel in Italy and they love Italian art. And they brought paintings of Bellini, Botticelli, Mantegna, Carpaccio.
And Tiepolo, whose fresco graces the mansion's lobby.
And this is the bedroom.
So the Monsieur and Madame lived here?
Yes, but this was the room of Madame, chambre of Madame.
Oh, they had two different bedrooms?
Exactly. That's Nelly Jacquemart.
And this was Edouard's bedroom, complete with a deluxe bathroom. For more of the decadence of that age, check out the ritzy shops. It's ritzy in the true sense, since they cluster around the original Ritz Hotel. Enjoy the luxury of this neighborhood by window shopping, or as the French say, faire du lèche vitrine.
Faire du lèche vitrine. These women are window licking. That's what people do in Paris. It's just a phrase, but they love their windows. They go window shopping, and I love the way it's called window licking. Up next, we're going to the Loire Valley, romantic Loire Valley. It's just an hour or so south of Paris, and we're specifically going to the most romantic of all the chateaus, Chenonceau. I hope you're enjoying your little swing through the romantic spots of Europe. And I hope you're enjoying your munchies, your cheese, your pâté, your mousse, your beautiful white wine. And in a minute, I'm going to get into my baklava and my chocolate. In fact, I'm going to do that pretty quick because we're coming down to the home stretch here. The baklava is nothing to do with where we are right now, but it is so lovely. It's just wonderful phyllo pastry with lots of nuts and pistachios drenched in honey. And then also for Valentine's Day, of course, you like chocolate. And when you're in Europe, the Swiss chocolate is particularly good. This is Lindt chocolate, L-A-N-D-T, dark chocolate. It goes nice with your wine. Traveling is just a celebration of so many dimensions of life. And right now, we're going to enjoy it on the Loire Valley.
Window licking. The pastoral Loire Valley hides countless castles or chateaux. While you'll likely visit several, it's important to choose wisely. Rather than seeing a string of similar palaces, we've lined up a variety, several distinctly different chateaux. While Chambord was grandiose, our next one is graceful.
Look at that. Just look at that view. That's real. And you see it all over the Loire. And the key is, and I remember this actually when I was a kid traveling around the Loire, chateau, chateau, chateau everywhere. You burn out on chateaus if you see the same kind of chateau over and over. And there's a lot of redundant chateaus. Plan strategically to see a series of chateaus that illustrate all the different kinds of chateau. You got your medieval fortified chateaus. Chinon is a great example of that. You got your chateaus famous for their gardens. Villandry, you got to see Villandry if you like gardens. You want to see the big grand chateau, you go to Chambord, 440 rooms. And if you want the most romantic chateau, you're looking at it right now. Chenonceau.
The Chateau of Chenonceau is the toast of the Loire. This 16th century Renaissance palace arches gracefully over the Cher River. Its formal garden, combined with the delightful riverside setting, makes it one of the great sights in all of Europe.
By the way, I'll never forget just sitting here. My crew really needed some time to do this justice. And, you know, I was so happy to give it to them. They were out there making all sorts of beauty shots. And I got to just hang out in the garden. And this garden and this chateau and this river and all of the delightful, happy people is a beautiful moment. Each chateau is like a park. give yourself a couple days in the Loire Valley to enjoy these amazing chateaux.
The palace is lovingly maintained with bouquets of fresh flowers adding fragrance and an included audio guide making sure visitors understand what they're looking at. Big fireplaces warmed big beds, while portraits of illustrious owners give the place a certain pedigree. While the tapestries kept the rooms cozy, they also functioned to depict recent history, to the king's liking, of course. These 16th century tapestries are among the finest in France. Chenonceau was the first great pleasure palace. With its ravishing grand gallery spanning the river, it was designed for high society. Nicknamed the Chateau of the Ladies, Chenonceau housed many famous women over the centuries. In 1547, King Henry II gave the original castle to his mistress, Diane de Poitiers. She added an arched bridge over the river.
When the king died, his wife, the queen, Catherine de' Medici, took over the chateau. She threw out the mistress, turned Diane's bridge into a fancy ballroom, and according to legend, put her own portrait above the fireplace in her rival's bedroom.
Big personalities like kings tickled more than one tiara at a time. Mistresses were a routine part of the mix. Louis XV decorated this palace with a painting of the Three Graces featuring his 3 favorite mistresses. Now that's the arrogance of power.
A powerful queen or mistress often managed to get her own private palace, even when the king's romantic interests shifted elsewhere. In many cases, the king or nobleman would be away on work or at war for years at a time, leaving home improvement decisions up to the lady of the chateau, who had an unlimited budget.
Can you imagine how much fun it is to be a tour guide with 20 or 25 Americans and showing off all these great chateaux or whatever slice of Europe your tour is focusing on that day? It really is a delight. It's such a privilege. And I'm so excited that we've got our 100 European guides standing by. I'm sad they have no work right now, but we're going to come out of this pandemic and we're going to be leading our tours around Europe again soon. And we've got so many friends that run the little hotels, the little chateau hotels, the little bistros, the little trattorias, the local tour guides, and our wonderful bus drivers. It's a whole team that's ready to throttle up as soon as we get a grip on this pandemic. And looking at this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful chateau right here, this ballroom draping over the river, I can remember beautiful times with our tour groups going here, enjoying exactly what we're seeing right now. You know, these chateaus are just drenched in romance, and many are refurbished in romantic age, over-the-top style of the aristocrats that still owned it until this last century. We've had the aristocratic families actually sitting in the ticket booth, selling tickets. I mean, the modern day, you know, impoverished nobility, they're land rich, but cash poor, and they have to sell tickets to visit their castles, their chateaus. There's one called Giverny, which we're not showing today, but the nobleman still lives there. We interviewed him with our TV show, and he loves hunting with his dogs. And he must have 50 dogs. And every day at about 5 o'clock, the dog master brings the dogs out, and there's a big performance as the tourists gather around and you see all the dogs dive in for dinner. By the way, all of those kind of episodes you can see on our Loire TV show. I mean, we've got 100 episodes at ricksteves.com, and you really, the whole Loire Valley, I wish we could show it all tonight, but it's a half an hour just in itself. It's on our website. Okay, this next stop, our last stop, is in Venice. It's Carnival time. And when you think about Easter, Easter is a big part of the church calendar, and it starts out with craziness, Mardi Gras. And that leads into Lent. And then, of course, you've got Easter. So we're going to look at the very beginning of the Easter season. It's celebrated in many parts of Europe. It's called Carnevale. And we'd call it Mardi Gras here, Fat Tuesday in New Orleans. And we're going to be in my vote for the most romantic city in Europe. So get a little context about Easter, and then we'll dive right into Venice for that amazing time, Carnival.
While Christians have celebrated Easter since ancient times, the festival itself actually has pre-Christian roots, and it's no coincidence that it happens at the start of spring. Like Christmas replaced the pagan festival of Saturn in the dead of winter, Easter likely replaced the celebration of Ostra, a pagan goddess of spring. It was a time of renewal, birth, and fertility.
Imagine the bleakness of winter in ancient and medieval times, the despair, the short days and long nights, barren fields, the hunger, and the cold. Imagine the need for a promise that summer will return, and the joy when finally the fields spring to life and once again bear fruit. Imagine also the comfort in knowing that God, or the gods, had not abandoned you and your family. Rituals, whether Christian or pagan, gave people hope, reminding them that the darkness of winter is always followed by life-giving spring.
The church wisely adapted the pagan seasonal calendar to fit the story it wanted to tell. It rebranded this winter season of scarcity as a time of purification for Christians and called it Lent. But before the deprivation of Lent, there was a rowdy period of anything goes. And this hedonistic fling is Carnival.
Perhaps the most famous European carnival festivals are in Venice. Venice, in the quiet of winter, lives up to its early name, La Serenissima, the Serene Republic. Visitors at this time of year bundle up and enjoy the city's chilly embrace. And each winter, Carnival casts a spell on Venetians and visitors alike. Following a tradition that originated in the 13th century, the city slips behind a mask of anonymity as Venetians promenade, pose, and pretend they're someone they're not. Authority is challenged. Rules are broken. The goal? To indulge in everything that'll be forbidden in Lent. An elegant disguise is both transformative and liberating. But it's the mask, so symbolic of this enigmatic city, which feels like a cloak of invisibility. While the original 13th century masks had symbolic functions, today's costumes are more fanciful. While they all give a nod to tradition, many are more contemporary and colorful. Though the masks may have changed, the pleasurable appeal of anonymity has not. As dusk falls, the backstreets come alive with strangers. Now, as then, decadence rules the night. Like going anywhere else in Venice, getting to a carnival party often involves a vaporetto ride. Walking through narrow streets and crossing over canals on bridges. These Venetians have been gathering together to enjoy Carnival for 25 years. And just as generations of Venetians have for hundreds of years, they enjoy the privacy and comfort of an elegant palazzo. It's a time when friends take a break from the stresses of their composed, controlled lives to let a little fun and fantasy take over. In another palazzo off the Grand Canal, guests enter into a surreal world that could have been lifted right out of the 16th century.
Welcome, dear guests. Welcome, all my friends.
Behind their masks, people from bankers to bakers are equal. Tonight, no one knows who's who, and reality seems a distant dream. As it was centuries ago, what happens in Venice stays in Venice.
What happens in Venice stays in Venice. That is quite a scene to be in Venice during Carnival. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed our little swing through Europe as a warm-up to Valentine's Day. Just a quick review. We started in Lake Como, the most romantic part of Italy, up 1 hour north of Milano, the beautiful little traffic-free town of Verona, the resort across the water of Bellagio. We went then to Santorini, a beautiful island in the Aegean Sea where all the cruise ships stop, wonderful sunsets there. We enjoyed the art of Gustav Klimt in the Jugendstil period in Vienna, in the Belvedere Palace in Vienna. And then we went to Nice, the best home base for the French Riviera, that wonderful little charm bracelet of port towns along the Mediterranean coast. That's so delightful. And then we went to the most romantic city in all of Europe, Paris. We enjoyed the romantic love, troubadour, courtly love, the age of chivalry 600 years ago at the Cluny Museum, seeing the beautiful tapestry called The Lady and the Unicorn. And then we fast forwarded 500 years to around the year 1900. We went to the Jacques Martin André Museum in Paris to see that beautiful Belle Époque mansion with all of its great art. We went an hour south of Paris to the Loire Valley, and we went to the most romantic chateau of the whole Loire, and that was Chenonceau, reminding ourselves that there are many different great palaces to check out, chateaus along the Loire, and it's worth giving some time to see all of them. And we finished in Venice for one of many looks at Carnevale. I do want to remind you, when Easter comes along, we're going to have a special 1-hour presentation of our Easter show right here on Monday Night Travel. We've also been, I hope you've been enjoying your dinner. It's occurred to me, I bought the most expensive cheese and pâté and so on I could find, and it doesn't amount to diddly when you just buy it at the cheesemongers and you serve it to yourself. This has been a beautiful dinner. 2 different cheeses, the mousse, the pâté, the wonderful baguette, my beautiful dry French wine, La Paradou, and my blackcurrant liqueur, crème de cassis, to make a kir, K-I-R. And then the baklava, and I've just got one little piece left, and my Swiss chocolate. What a delightful dinner. What a delightful chance to celebrate what Europe has to offer. And what a delight for us to have all of you drop by. I hope you enjoyed it as a warm-up to this Valentine coming up this Sunday. Let's go back to Julianne now, and we can answer some questions, Julianne.
Thank you, Rick. I would say that was a delightful evening. We have a lot of great questions, but before we get to those, can we have a word from our sponsor?
Yeah, I feel like our sponsor is La Paradou wine. This is almost done. I hope I'm glad I don't have a third show. I'll just put it that way. So a word from our sponsor. Well, you know, Julianne, you and I work in a company called Rick Steves Europe. There's 100 of us. It's not a good time if you're in the tourist industry because there's no revenue, nobody's traveling. But we are so determined to keep our team together because we know we are on a glide path to normalcy. We got a government that believes in science. We've got a society that wants to get it together and get a grip on this pandemic. We've got wonderful vaccines coming up. And we firmly believe that coming up in the next year, we're all going to be traveling again. And we're going to enjoy Europe, not in a bubble, but in a way where we can connect with Europeans in the way that we love to so much. So we don't know if it's going to be this fall or this winter or next spring, but we will be going back to Europe. And Rick Steves Europe is together. We've got our staff of 100 people still on our payroll. We're working hard. We're investing in our content. We're investing in our infrastructure. Julianne, we might as well remind people as a company, we're investing 400 hours a week in our community with doing volunteer work because we're staying together. And we know right now it's more important than resurrecting our travel dreams is to make sure our community can hold it together during these difficult times. So we're doing that. And we hope our travelers will be with us when we come out of this because we're ready to throttle up and go back to Europe. A couple of years ago, we took 30,000 people to Europe on 1,200 different tours. We were all excited about 2020 to be our best year ever. Of course, no real tourism at all in 2020, but we have our 40 itineraries. And this same catalog is available for 2021, and it's available in a PDF format at ricksteves.com. If you go to the tour section at our website, ricksteves.com, you can find that PDF and download it and do what I do, thumb through it and see what itinerary speaks to you and put your name on the waiting list. And then when we're going to resurrect our tour program, you'll be the first to know about it. We have about 10,000 people with their name on the waiting list to know about when we're going to do our tours again. We've got 100 wonderful guides standing by in Europe, ready to work really hard to show us the best of Europe. And if you've enjoyed this last hour or so of dreaming about Europe, that's exactly what we do on our tours. Okay, thanks so much. Julianne, let's answer some questions while I eat some more Swiss chocolate.
Okay, great. Well, it sounds like we have a lot of people that are travel dreaming. To start things off, Daisy and Sue were wondering, out of the places we saw tonight, which place would you choose for a romantic getaway?
I love Paris. Julianne. I just love Paris. And if you've got a special travel partner, you can go to Paris for the rest of your life. You can see all the museums and just walk around every day. You can go to a little bistro. You can find your own favorite bistro with the wicker woven chairs and watch the little tiny sparrows or whatever they are drop on there. And the local people who've been coming by for 30 years have their café au lait. There's something about Paris that's just delightful. And even if you don't speak the language and you're not that sophisticated about French culture, you can be there and really enjoy Paris. So, I mean, all of this is romantic, but Paris is a slam dunk.
And Katie and Ida were wondering, of the places you've been in Europe, where would you go for a honeymoon? Would it also be Paris? Or would you go somewhere else?
A honeymoon. Well, I wrote a book a long time ago called Europe Through the Back Door, and it features my 20 favorite places. And I think you could call them favorite 20 places to have a honeymoon almost, Depends on what you like. I mean, you can go into the Alps. You can go to Gimmelwald, a traffic-free village in the Alps where everybody has the same last name, and just cloak yourself in the wonders of nature. You can go to Siena, romantic town in Italy, Siena, hill town, the ultimate hill town. Go to the Italian Riviera. You can go to the Lake District. We started off today with Como. You can go to the south coast of Portugal. There's a couple of places I go to convalesce. I mentioned that before. It's a weird thing for me because I work so hard. I just go crazy. But every once in a while, my brain just gets fried, and I need a couple of days just to convalesce. And I go to Verena on Lake Como. I go to a little village called Bielstein on the Mosel River near Kokum, the Mosel River, the little sister of the Rhine River. I go to an island in South Denmark called Aero, A-E-R-O, and I go to the south coast of Portugal, the Algarve, and I stay in a place called Salema. And these are my places I've been raving about for decades, and I just love them to this day.
Great. Sounds like a new book, Where to Convalesce in Europe.
Where to Convalesce, I'll remember that, thank you.
Okay, and let's see here. Someone was wondering, what are some tips you have for a solo traveler who still wants to experience romantic Europe?
There's a lot of solo travelers that would love to get to know you. And every time I spend 100 days solo traveling around Europe every year, when I'm working, I've got nobody with me. I'm just go. And I notice there's a lot of people that would love to have a dinner companion. I mean, it's not like hooking up. It's just you're going to do some sightseeing together or something like that. I would say the important thing is to remember, if you're over there wishing you had a travel partner, there's 1,000 people in that same town in the same situation, and you need to take the initiative. And remember that everybody is wondering, what am I going to do tonight? So do things where you will encounter other tourists, practically speaking, other American or other international tourists rather than locals. And then be quick to say, do you have plans for dinner? And get together. It's a lot of fun. You take the walking tours, you take the food tours. There's a lot of things you can do as an individual traveler, whether you're a single traveler or traveling with a couple or a family, and you meet other people. And a great thing about traveling alone, you have your lonely time, but you also are more able to turn on a dime and connect with somebody and do something together. You don't have to worry about what your partner wants to do. And that's a beautiful thing. So there's, the best way to travel is with the right partner. The worst way to travel is with the wrong partner. And I would far prefer traveling alone than with the wrong partner, confident that I will meet people as I go. If you have reasonable social skills, or even if you don't, if you can just take the initiative and be the extrovert, you won't be lonely.
That's a really nice point. We were thinking that it was interesting when you were talking about how you liked how Chiara, the French guide, said the different Italian names. Do you think the Romance languages of Europe, like French, Italian, and Spanish, do you think those contribute to the romanticism of Europe?
Yes, I really do. I'm just enchanted by French and Italian. I got to say, I'm not enchanted by Spanish or Portuguese. No offense to Spaniards. But the French and the Italians, I didn't want to make too big a deal about Chiara, but her delightful accent is part of the fun. And my Italian friends who are guides, to me, it's like music listening to them. So yeah, they call them the romance languages, I think for good reason. They're just fun to listen to. Having said that, my second language is German. And a lot of people laugh at how guttural German is, but German can be a very sexy language when you find yourself in the right, situation. And give German a shot too. It's just, what more fundamental than what language are you speaking is who are you talking to?
Yeah. Yeah, I think any language would be romantic given the situation. But
That's right. That's right.
okay. And then our last question for tonight, we often see on TV Europeans kind of portrayed as these big romantics. Do you think that Europeans are more romantic than Americans?
Yes. I think that's maybe not the politically correct thing to say.
Yeah.
But I just want to be candid. Yeah. Americans have a lot of hangups. Americans are uptight. For Americans, time is money. I'm an American. I'm not saying I wish I was like Europeans. I mean, I'm happy to be an American. But in Europe, they really take family values seriously. They really take time with their friends seriously. They'll spend 3 hours for a dinner. And that's the reason you're out together. It's just that, I use this word a lot in my TV shows, conviviality. There's a conviviality that is quintessentially European that I don't think we have here. Of course, we have it in occasions here and there. But there's so many taboos and uptightness in American culture that when we travel, we realize we get a different angle on and we can reconsider those. Europeans learn from us and we learn from Europeans. But I would say Europeans are less materialistic. They're less wealthy. They're less hard driven than Americans. And they're more ready to just have a good, thoughtful time. But it's not mindless kind of just partying. It's quality, thoughtful, getting to know each other's soul and mind and outlook and experience. And it's just, ever since I was a kid, I've loved that about Europe. So it's fun. And I just hope people get a chance to go over to Europe one way or another and experience it. And, Julian, you, me, our whole staff, that's what we do with our careers. We help Americans travel more smartly in Europe, how to afford it, how to be impacted by it, how to travel efficiently. That's what Rick Steves Europe is all about. I want to remind all of you who are watching right now that we've got an exciting calendar coming up of Monday Night Travel. Next week is favorite foods and best meals in Europe. Oh, baby, that's going to be amazing show, I'll tell you. After that, we've got a special guest. Our favorite Roman guide, Francesca Caruso, is going to be with us, and we're going to celebrate the wonders of Rome. And then on March 1st, it's Europe's top musical experiences. And already I'm practicing the piano because I'm very shy about my piano playing, but I want to share with you a little bit of my favorite ideas about music. And I'm going to illustrate it with a little bit of piano playing for you. And that is March 1st. We've got a lot of great travels coming up. Thank you for joining us for Monday Night Travel. And I want to wish you all a happy Valentine's Day coming up. I hope this got you kind of in the mood. And I want to remind you that we've got a lot of good travels coming your way. So happy travels, even if we're all just staying home for a little while.